So, welcome everybody. Hello, Facebook. Andrew, like the brick. Getting
Thank
outside.
you. Yes. Yeah,
So,
my son is home from school today, so I'm outside, but I like it. It's nice out, so I'm happy about it.
yeah. And what's the temperature over in Fayetteville right now?
It's pretty good. It's just starting to cool down a little bit. It was super hot in the summer, but now it's starting to get a little cooler. So
Yeah.
I really like it right now. Maybe it's in the 70s, so it's perfect.
It had to be about 100 degrees yesterday. It was so hot. Lindsay and I took James to the hospital. We had to go for our doctor's appointment to the hospital and for his GI appointment, and loading him into the car and unloading him. Not only did James get some sunburn just in that short period of time, it was so hot. I mean, just drenched with sweat and just like a quick transport. So it was crazy. But,
Yeah, totally.
yeah, man, I'm glad we're able to connect again. And, some people will be joining in on Facebook Live. Some will be watching the recording. And I know the last time we were talking, we were kind of jamming a little bit about, the upcoming event that we're putting on for Better Than Rich. We started touching and massaging some of the topics of what we're going to be going over and some of the things we're going to be talking about. I figured it'd be cool to continue that conversation today and just kind of shed some light to some people who do know us, like, hey, this is what we're going to be bringing. And for maybe those that don't know us, what they could look forward to if they got a chance to hang out with us for a couple of days in an immersion event with technology free for a couple of days. So, what's on your mind for a little bit, as we kind of set that context?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as a starting point, I don't think that can really be understated, just how much of our lives is in this digital space. Sometimes I'll meet people in town and they're like, oh, cool, because Walmart's here and a few other big companies in my hometown. They're like their corporate headquarters. And they're like, oh, cool. So I'm assuming all your clients are Walmart, or, they work for Tyson or they work for JB Hunt. And like, they think I'm this like local guy. I'm like, no, everybody I work with is, through the internet these days. It's through Zoom. And, I think that sometimes there is something missed, right? When we're in Zoom. I've done events on Zoom. They've been pretty good. And nothing, though, beats a live event, right? It's just a totally different feel. So, I mean, just right off the bat on that topic, I think coming together, the energy that can be created and the transformation that can be created because of that.
Hi, Uncle Mike. Hi, Eli.
And of course, Eli is, I tried to escape the chaos, but Eli, he's got enough chaos for us all. So
what's up, buddy?
Zoom bombing here.
Yeah, you're speaking to everyone on our Facebook too. So
you're live on the internet.
Yeah, everyone now knows how cool your pajamas are, man. I love them.
These are new.
Yeah, they're good. I like those.
All right, go inside, shut the door, don't come back out.
Bye.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
I can't wait for the day, man. I'm just saying, I can't wait for the day when James runs on freaking Zoom and Zoom bombs. So I'm just saying. So
that's right.
There's a level of gratitude there.
Something to be grateful for, yes, even if it's frustrating at times. But yes, and I love that he calls you Uncle Mike. That's awesome.
I love that.
So just coming together live though. At our last event, the power that was created by that space, right? In the event space, we kind of call it a container. And what we do is we set this container and we set the parameters for engagement. And it's like, okay, if you're going to be in this room, here's how you need to show up. And we hold everybody to that standard. And it just creates such a sort of field of energy that really makes the space ripe for transformation and allows us to just go into places and topics and into levels of intimacy that just aren't possible through a screen, right?
Yeah.
So that's just one big, selling point is like, maybe you're burned out a little bit on the digital space. I know I am at times. And just coming together live for an event just changes everything. It can, leave you refreshed, rejuvenated, and just reminded of just how important that connection is personally. So I don't know if there's anything you want to share there, and then we can get into some more topics.
Yeah, for sure.
Something I thought was relevant.
100% relevant. And at the same time, there's the distraction of on Zoom. I know for a fact, every single time I'm on a meeting, it's like, if I'm not speaking, there's the urge to pull out the phone or pull up another screen or do something or look at something or pull up a chat or, but if that's not in front of me and there's humans in front of me and like, it's in that container, like you said, what's possible when there's no distraction, like what's beyond the distraction. And when we can kind of peel back that for a few days, I've been working through some of this with one of my other life coaches on my relationship with boredom, just being bored and strengthening my relationship with boredom, and like giving myself permission to be bored, to not be constantly engaged or distracted or occupied. And it's just an interesting observation, as I was, navigating through being in a hospital for 8 months. It's like, if you're in a contained space for that long, there's definitely going to be a lot of hurry up and wait. And when we hurry up and wait, what are the potential emotions that show up? And for me, ended up being boredom. So strengthen the relationship with that, I think, is important, and hence why this immersion experience is going to be so valuable, to just not allow myself to settle into that distraction. And I know Lindsay and I did a road trip last year, and I went away from the cell phone. And one of our previous episodes, we talked about this, and just even I made the agreement, I'm not going to look at my phone. I don't need to look at my phone. The business is running. But there was still like, I run to the bathroom and I'm like, all right, I'll just check it once a day. And like, there was no escaping the cell phone. And not that it's bad, emergencies happen, but it's interesting to see what we're searching for outside of, what are we searching for in the noise, and like what's beyond the noise.
Right. And it can become, just like the biggest leash, that we possibly have. You think, okay, well, I have this phone. If I go, anywhere in the world, I can still have access to the world, but then it just becomes this leash that we're on. And, what are the costs of that? There might be some benefits, but what are the costs? And I don't think they're, oftentimes considered. And so, just to be 100% transparent with people, for me, for Mike, for our facilitation team, the reality is we're not like your mom and dad. We're not going to be like, chastising people if they have to like check a few emails in the morning. But for as much as possible, we are going to encourage everyone to disconnect from their business, from the outside world when they come into our space, because that's where the power is. And if every time you're starting to feel an uncomfortable emotion, you go to the bathroom, or you got to step outside and take a quick phone call or whatever, it really dissipates your capacity to transform in that moment. So, we're going to have what's called the cell phone bowl. Okay. And it's not mandatory. Okay. But it is encouraged. Hey, put your cell phone in the cell phone bowl. Right. And, let's at least not touch it during session, maybe on a break if you need to check something.
I already bought it. The cell phone jail.
Nice. I love that. So it's like, put your cell phone in cell phone jail. It's there if you really need it. We're not gonna be the cell phone police or anything, but you're all adults. But I think it's just, hey, make that decision consciously for yourself to choose to be present with yourself, with your own transformation, what you need. So that's just one.
Where do you think the desire for distractions coming from? I mean, we could just go right in. I know this is something that we're going to be hitting on. So where do you think this desire to constantly occupy our mind is coming from in most people?
I think it's a very natural thing, because we have been evolved to avoid pain. And so if we think about distraction as just one way to not have to feel pain, that's really what distraction ultimately becomes. I don't want to have to think about how I'm being asked to grow my life right now, because it's going to be a painful growth journey. Let me just look at my phone. I don't want to have to, face this emotional pain from my past or this trauma that I've experienced. Let me find some other distraction and way to numb the pain. So ultimately, what distraction becomes is just another source of like a way to numb things, like drugs or alcohol. But it's just another sort of form of it. But this can be just as addicting, if not more addicting than those things, to be honest, to the point where you can't feel anything. I talk to clients all the time where it's just like, I don't know how to feel emotions. I feel like I'm dead inside. I don't feel like I'm present. I don't feel like I'm really living. It feels like I'm this like zombie going through life. And again, I feel like that's, we walk down the street all day long. And you see people like texting as they're walking and like bumping into each other. Everyone's got their headphones in. No one's really relating to each other. When you're checking out, even at Starbucks, it's like, it's a hassle to like take the earbud out to the podcast you're listening to and just treat the other human like a human. And so taking, 3-4 days to really get off the grid and practice this and be comfortable in the process of being uncomfortable is really the invitation. What do you think?
And I think about what's on the other end of that. Like what's on the other end of distraction. So let's say some people listening, because we have a lot of thought leaders coming, I know they're already in the space. They already practice journaling. They practice meditation. They practice stillness. They practice just getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. And then it's like, now that they're already kind of going through that, what's like by continuing on that path and continuing on that journey, what's the 10x look like of the compound effect of going through the discomfort? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, when I think about what's on the other side of discomfort, it's really about like facing whatever we haven't been willing to face. And oftentimes that's either like deeply accepting something, like maybe grieving something from the past, or it's facing a fear that we have that we just haven't been willing to face. And it's like, what are we really afraid of that we have to distract ourselves so much is really the question. And then having to face that fear is what becomes the new reality. And when you get into a space like this, you have no other choice because you have nowhere to hide. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of strategically paint yourself into a corner is really the idea. And that allows people to actually face the fears that they haven't been willing to face because no one really demands it of them, right? Like generally speaking, you don't have to face your deepest fears on a daily basis. Your fear of death, your fear of, am I good enough? Your fear of missing out, your fear of being inadequate, your fear of, being not liked or something like that. So coming together and actually having to sit with a group of your peers and say, yeah, like if I really were to be honest, I guess I have like a fear of failure. And that's why I never chased that dream. That's why I never give myself permission to live the life of my dreams. And then to be coached through that, right? That's really the goal.
And I think about what the cost is. How many times have we heard the quote that the richest place in the world is the cemetery, right? That so many people have taken all their dreams and aspirations to the grave with them. They take all their money to the grave with them. They take their dreams to the grave with them, and they never mustered up the courage to pursue those things that they were scared to pursue. And because of that fear, they were more attached to the fears of possibility or impossibility than at least trying to see, what is possible in this lifetime. And I know that kind of ties in a little bit to a conversation I know I'm really passionate about, because I know how much of a stamp it left on me when you and I had that conversation about my great grandfather, my grandfather's grandfather. And it just it stayed with me. I mean, you must have had the conversation with me 5 years ago. I mean, we've had hundreds of conversations, and this one 5 years ago just really stuck with me because I am attached to the idea of legacy. I have revealed a lot of my purpose, and I specifically remember going to my first Tony Robbins event and walking through the fire, and like on the other end of the fire, that was like my first real like revelation of like, holy shit, okay, I'm meant for more. I heard my mess is my message, and like there's bigger than this. And I remember, and I still have the journal. I bet I could find the journal entry of one of these journals over here. And I specifically remember sitting in my hotel room and just journaling out, like, what is my message? What am I here? What is my purpose? And that entryway of clarity of that my purpose in life is to educate, inspire, and be a force for good for myself and others. And if I can stay on that mission and stay and live to that purpose and hold truth to that purpose, well, then what's on the other end of that? Well, now that I'm a father, if James has a kid, then I'm a grandfather, and James's kid has a kid, then now there's lineage, even more lineage. And it's like, how can I leave this life better than when I got here? How could I be remembered, not by strangers, not by the world, but by my lineage, my legacy, my family? Because unfortunately, tracing back my grandfather's lineage, a lot of them were killed in the Holocaust. A lot of them were killed in Poland. A lot of them were killed in all different wars and mass genocides. So I don't know a lot of them, and I don't know what the future entails, but I do know that there's something beyond the now, and I want to do my part in making sure that not only am I remembered, not because of my ego, but that my family's lineage is better because of the life that I've led. And to be able to get even more clear on some of that for me, and by me figuring some of that stuff out through workshopping, I'm really excited and interested of what might show up for other people. So if we have our group of people that can maybe challenge me and poke at this and like ask me like, what do you think, Mike? What do you really want? What would that look like? What does that feel like? What would that, how could I get even more descriptive of that? How would I need to lead the next 50 years of my life? What is, if the next 50 years looks like this, what does 30-year mark look like? What does the 20-year, 10-year, 5-year, 1-year, 30-day mark look like? And what are the tiny actions I could take every day that are aligned with this mission, and tracing it all the way backwards? What a powerful activity that cannot happen when we're distracted. That's what shows up for me.
Absolutely. And, this is going to be one of the topics that we discuss, because we're going to talk about legacy and like, what's the legacy you want to create? In fact, we're going to visit Mayan ruins and get to see, things that were built, long ago, and get to see what a civilization looked like, in a long time ago. What's really cool about that is you can connect to, well, these buildings have stood the test of time. And it's like, what's going to stand the test of time for yourselves? And what kind of legacy do you want to leave? Not so that you can kind of like have this ego fulfillment of like living forever sort of thing, but just because it's the right thing to do to leave this world better than you found it, right? And, to make sure that, for your son, for your daughter, for whomever, your great granddaughter, your granddaughter, your grandchildren in general, are you actually setting them up for success through what you're building right now? Whether that's wealth, sure, but also what about how you're actually, raising your kids, how you're actually
principles,
the principles that you're leaving behind, the impact that you're making on the community that they're going to live in. And, for some people that is, just inside the four walls of their home. For some people, it's, into the town and the community. For some people, it's, at a state level, a national level, or global level. And the reality is, your meaning in life, this goes back to our previous discussion on Tuesday, which if you haven't watched, I definitely recommend you go back and watch that as well. But the purpose question, right? Is like, what's my purpose and how do I actually find meaning in this life? It's about responsibility. So, but what would actually be exciting enough for you to be excited to take that responsibility and to connect to that? Most of the folks that are coming to an event like this, of course, we're going to talk about what your 2022 vision is, because the event happens in November. By the way, the weather in November in Mexico, it's pretty nice. It's not like overly hot, but it's also, not too cool either, obviously. Especially if you're in those northern states, you want to escape the cold, a nice little excuse to come to Mexico, get away for a little bit. But I think that, a lot of people coming, talking about 2022 vision is good, but it's also like, okay, what about 2023, 2025, 2030, 2040, 2050, and connecting to these deeper things. Of course, there might be a little bit more vagueness and fuzziness about those longer term things, but what is something really long term that would fire you up, that we could actually start to plan for today, that you could actually start to create? And we're going to use that space to start to design that life, the life of your dreams, right? Whatever that looks like for you.
And for some people, they maybe are in their career for quite some time, and they have this like passion on the side. For some people, it's like, I have this passion on the side, but this is my career. This is what pays the bills. But I have this passion, and oh man, if I could turn that passion into profits. I was talking to Adrian, one of our guests. We're hoping that she could work it out. And, she's a writer, author, beautiful. She's a contributor to Real Stories, Real People, Strong, Independent Single Moms. And she has an unbelievable story. You should totally check out her story. It's remarkable. Her story is called La La Land in the book. Fabulous writer. And she just launched a podcast. She's on season 2. And we're having a conversation about like, she wants to do this to get her message out to the world. But there's this concept of like, but it's just more of a passion. It's not really like a thing to monetize or make money on, but like there's ways to turn those passion projects into profits, because people don't necessarily value something as much if there's not an exchange. If it's free, well, it's probably not as much of value, but if they're paying for it, they'll typically value it more. But sometimes like artists have a struggle with this all the time, because it's like, how do I price my masterpiece? I just did it because I loved it. How do I put a price tag on this? And I think there's also some people that want to come to this event to say, maybe the future version of me there's like itching to figure out and reveal and peel back some of the layers and take the risk of turning some of these passions into profits, and maybe revealing that a little bit more. Maybe the space could be an opportunity for that too.
Right. Well, I think there's a lot of folks who have their day job, right? And then they have what they really love. And, they have what pays the bills, and then they have their side hustle, or maybe it's just a passion project. And, I was there, I get it. So I understand needing to pay the bills, but then having these passions, but, eventually saying, okay, I need to make this leap. And it is scary. And I don't think I would have been able to make that leap if I didn't have people in my corner who could, yes, help me strategize how to do it effectively, so I didn't just fall flat on my face. But I think secondarily, it's giving me the confidence and helping me walk through the identity transformation required to move from an employee mindset to a, not just an entrepreneurial mindset, but a thought leader, right? Somebody in this space who really actually has something to contribute. And no matter what your passion is, if you do want to turn it into a profit in this example, like really shifting your identity from like, yeah, I kind of dabble with writing and I kind of have this podcast thing, to like, I'm a podcaster, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a thought leader. And those are the sorts of transformations that can occur, in that right space with the right support. Because what I find a lot of times is people, it takes a lot of energy to transform, right? Like even if we just like think about how much time goes into, and how much, careful crafting goes into a chrysalis, that is holding and cocooning this caterpillar before it turns into a butterfly. It takes time, it takes energy. There's things happening. It's breaking down into these like, imaginarily cells, or I forget what they're called, but these like potential cells, and then they're transforming into something else. That is really a great analogy for what we're looking to do, which is, let's come together, let's cocoon, let's go into the chrysalis for 3 days so you can emerge a butterfly. I'm sure there's already a lot of things about you that we want to keep. We don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater in your identity. You're not going to be, completely changed. There are a lot of really good things, but there's also some dead wood that needs to be burned up that we can just get rid of. Some old stories, some old habits that maybe they've protected you up until this point, but they're not serving you for the future. And it's like who you are now is not who you need to be to get to where you want to be. And we want to create that space so that you're able to become who you need to be for the future.
Mm. And you mentioned fears as one of those things that a lot of times that hold us back. So one of the other 100%. Things that we're going to be doing is we're going to do some zip lining. So some people might be fearful of heights, or fearful of the zip line breaking or something like that. So one of the things that we'll do is, we're going to go zip lining, and we'll figure out, okay, what are some of those fears on the first day? We'll kind of reveal some of them, and then, let's turn some of those fears into fun. How do we turn the fears into fun? How do we embrace those fears? How do we laugh at the fears? How do we create a space to say, those old fears, they don't serve me. Let's let them go. And let's go down a zip line. Who knows? We'll see. There'll be some of that. And then same thing with the cold plunge, with the cenotes and going into these sinkholes and these beautiful, beautiful caves. I'm sure it's going to be cold. And, usually we don't like the cold. We like comfort. We like 98 degrees. So being able to go through discomfort. So we got like this vision idea with the identity of the great grandfather. We got the discomfort idea and getting comfortable with uncomfortable with the cold. And then we also have embracing some of the fears with the zip line. I mean, these are just examples of what we're trying to take concept and put it into our bodies where we could remember. So it's not just like we're just going to sit there and learn and take our journals out and talk, and you're going to be lectured by myself or Andrew for a few days. Like, magic is going to happen in the space. People are going to be able to share breakthroughs and what's happening, and we're also going to take that into the outside. Imagine that outside, like not at the computer screen. It's going to be epic. I don't know if you have a thought on that, but I'm looking forward to some of those activities too.
Yeah, well, a large benefit, this is like a peek behind the curtain, when you think about events, but a large benefit that we want to, that I find we are able to give when we put on events like this, is to give almost like a reference point of what it feels like for you to feel fully alive, fully abundant, fully loved, fully supported, and just to like be held by a community. Because let's face it, typically we're not getting that at work. Typically we're not getting that necessarily with our families. Maybe you have like a really, really great marriage or something like that, where you feel like that sort of dynamic can occur. But even then, it's just one person. And also it has its own personal challenges at times. So having this space, is really serves as a reference point to be like, wow, that's what's possible, right? It's possible to feel that good all the time. And I'll be honest, I'm a realist. Like I'm a little skeptical, of people just having this like mountaintop experience, but then not integrating it into their lives. And that's really where like day 3 comes in, where we were going to make it practical, say, okay, what is your plan for like first thing when you get home? What about the next 30 days? What about the next 90 days? What decisions need to be made? What are you going to stop doing? What's on the stop doing list? What's on the start doing list? And how do we actually package this into something where you don't go, that was a really great event, and I got back and nothing changed. My business didn't change. I didn't grow. I didn't make more money. My relationship with my significant other is still, on the fritz, and I'm not really growing and it's not really changing. We want to make sure that that's not what occurs.
Yeah. And to the last point you just said about the relationship, I think one of the activities that I know has been a hot topic for me and some of the conversations I've had with some people is just the polarity differences between them and their opposite, whether it be their partner or if they're single, the challenge they're experiencing in the dating world. So I think I think back to when I was single, I was very intentional with what I was searching for, and I have my vision board right over here, actually. I just put a post up. I actually just put a post up about my vision board on my personal page, but this right here is my relationship vision board. Looking for someone that has a unique personality that matches mine, someone I could laugh with, someone with beautiful eyes, someone who likes music, and a couple of affirmations that I can have, someone with that I could relax with, that I could put my happy life on, that I could travel with, right? Like these were some of the things. And then I had a specific list of someone who can understand death of a loved one, because my mom died, and I wanted someone who could understand and empathize that. I wanted someone who understood business and entrepreneurship a little bit, so they had an understanding of my world. Like it was a weird list. They liked animals. I didn't want to be with someone who hated pets. Like I wanted someone who wanted to have kids. Like there was a list of things, and then I had a favorite list of all the favorite activities of things I loved and things I did and things I enjoyed doing. So it was very intentional on how I attracted Lindsay into my life. And it sounds weird that like it was like a box that I was looking for, but like it was intentional to position myself to attract my now wife. But here's what's crazy is, on paper, Lindsay is very opposite of me when it comes to a lot. Like she fit a lot of these check boxes, but realistically, I'm Cancer, water. She's Aries, she's fire. I'm the youngest of 8 in birth order. She's the oldest of 3 in birth order. When my mom died, I took on a lot of feminine energy. When her dad passed away, she took on a lot of masculine energy. It was like, so we had these polar differences, but because of that, and because of the coaching and influence you've offered me and a lot of the resources that you've provided me, I've been able to realize that what is Lindsay really here to teach me? Not to be my soulmate, but to be my twin flame, to help me unravel and reveal more of my masculine truth, on how to show up in my masculine truth, and also how to engage my feminine energy and call that forward and know and to be able to decipher between the two. What powerful, powerful gifts that I was able to get from understanding in a relationship dynamic. And a lot of that was revealed at my first immersion event I went to in San Francisco. A lot of that was also revealed in the Way of the Superior Man, one of my, really was just an excellent book I continue to reference back to, and a lot of our conversations in the journal. So I know it's a little rant from me, but I get passionate about this topic because I saw what it's done in my life, and also for my marriage and my relationship, because there was a lot of rocky points in the beginning because it was constant, like this butting of heads of like, just not understanding one another. But once we understood one another, wow, it's been magical. And that's how we've been able to get not only through what we're going through with James, but I would say we are fucking thriving. I mean, she is incredible. And I do everything I do and everything I can to make sure that my wife is having a great life. And I've made that commitment when I put that ring on her finger, and it's making me a better man because of it. So again, I just love the topic of relationships because I've seen some of the work that you've done with me and some of the intentionality that it's created into my life, and beautiful gifts it's offered me.
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, thank you so much. And also it's just beautiful to see kind of that journey that you've been on, and then to see just how much great gratitude you have for Lindsay, and just how genuine that is. I think it's so beautiful that you're thriving through all the things that you're going through, and that you're able to be so grateful for her in that process. I think that's awesome. What I would say is relationships are important, right? Like, we're social creatures. We need relationships. We crave love and attention and social interactions. And so knowing how to navigate relationships, whether they're romantic or otherwise, is a really, really important thing. To do that, you need to understand human beings. And, particularly in the romantic side, thinking about the masculine and feminine dynamics, we've worked on this quite a bit, and I work with a lot of clients on this, but it's really like access to range, right? It's like, how versatile are you? And in a way, we always want to be showing up thinking, what does this moment, or what does this person need from me, right? How do I need to show up in this moment? How do I need to show up for this person currently, that who's having this conversation with me, or right in front of me, or whatever? And so, let's face it, sometimes that's going to ask you to be on the far extreme of the masculine side, and you're going to need to like provide, clarity, decision-making, decisiveness, answers, solutions, focus, determination, resolve, courage, all of those things that are typically in the masculine sphere. And again, by the way, don't be offended by this, right? That is just typically masculine energy. Every human being, whether you're a male or a female, has access to masculine energy, just like everyone has access to feminine energy. And so the other question is, okay, maybe this moment is asking me to show up in the far extreme on the other side, right? Listening, paying it, giving my full presence, really just surrendering, allowing, holding, crying, being in touch with my emotions, all of those things that are on the feminine side. Sometimes that's what that person needs from you. They don't need answers, right? They just need a listening ear, and they need somebody to just be with them and hold them in that moment. Maybe not physically, but hold them spiritually and emotionally. And so when we have access to these ranges, that really becomes cool, right? Because whether you're a man or a woman, you can step into any sort of spot on that range. And sometimes it's like in between, but you're kind of picking the right spot on the range for the moment, and then you're able to meet the needs. So, sometimes I need to tell my clients, you need to get your head out of your ass, Mike. You get your head screwed on straight, stop being a little bitch, right? And like, let's go make this happen, right? And sometimes I need to be that direct, and sometimes I need to just sit there on a call with somebody and literally, even though it's not my pain, like be in that emotion with them, cry with them, feel with them, and just let them, not give them any answers and just hear them for a while. And so when you're able to do that for the people in your life, whether it's a romantic relationship, a business relationship, or whatever, it's a game changer, honestly. And, we're going to teach some of those things too. So
and I want to speak to the more the female for just a second. I want to rant on that because the female energy right now, in my opinion, both have like, there's just confusion between the masculine and feminine energy, but the confusion lies, was in my opinion, a lot with the female, because they want these power women show up in business. These power women show up in business, and they got a bad rap. It's like you got to be firm, but you don't want to be considered a bitch, right? It's like you gotta find this balance, but they have to own that masculine energy, because if they don't own that masculine energy, nothing's gonna get done. So they got to own this masculine energy. But what happens is they're come home, and they come home and try to stay in the masculine that they show up in their business, and they try to bring that into their home. And if they have a more of a feminine man, but that man really has a masculine core, but he's not understanding his masculine core. That female, in my opinion, as a leader, it's her responsibility to support, to access that feminine even more, to be able to call that feminine forward, to allow his masculine to show up. And oftentimes myself, a lot of my clients have been men that I try to call that masculine forward and how to call that feminine forward. But I'm reaching out to the females too, to say, ladies, it's very important for you to also own that masculine to get shit done at work, and hold that feminine space, and position your man to feel that masculine energy and know how to call that out of him and bring that forward. So that way there's not this butting heads of masculine to his feminine ways, but he really is calling for that masculine forward too. So that's something I know for sure that we're going to jam on at this event too, because it's such a relevant topic I don't think is talked about enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's equally, the men really need to step up, right? And I think in some ways the conversation around like toxic masculinity or whatever almost demonizes masculinity more broadly, right? So, I mean, what we could say is there's toxic masculinity, and there's like, beneficial masculinity, or whatever you'd call like the opposite of toxic. And by the way, there's toxic femininity and there's beneficial femininity. So it's like, there's two sides of each coin. And so it's almost like masculinity across the board has been demonized, and that just doesn't make any sense, right? It's masculinity that is, protecting us right now, whether that's in the military or police force, whatever your thoughts are there. It's what allows for, a lot of singular focus inside, businesses to be able to get things done. And so, there's a lot of, bringing order is really what the masculine energy is about. And sometimes that can be stifling order. Sometimes that can be corrupt, but also sometimes it can just be, proper and people who are just competent in terms of their masculinity. Again, the same thing holds true for femininity. So we're going to get into these fun conversations. In some ways, it's like maybe someone will actually have a differing opinion. I think that's the other thing, is like, no matter what, when someone comes to our space, it's not like I'm telling you what to think. It's not like Mike's telling you what to think. I think a lot of what we want to do is create space for conversation, reflection, shares, discussion, insights. We're going to teach something called Johari's Window. I know we got to start heading for the door here, but Johari's Window is a really cool framework that we teach, where it's like everybody has, their blind spot, everyone has their mask, everyone has the arena that they're playing in, everyone has their unknown potential. It's a really cool framework. You can Google it and check out the Wikipedia page for it. It'll kind of help you understand it. But, everybody coming is going to have, areas of blind spots that they need to have pointed out, that we all need to grow in. And I have blind spots. Mike has blind spots. We all do. But just have that space to have your blind spots revealed, and then also to lower your mask, right? To be vulnerable in a space and to trust the room, so to speak. You might think, oh man, I don't know if I'm going to trust a bunch of strangers. But the reality is, how we set up everything and how we create it really creates this sort of space where these are become really quickly fast friends. I've seen relationships unfold at events like this. I've seen, fast friendships where it's like you go through this event together and you make really true friendships that are going to last a lifetime because you went through an event like this, like forest through the trees together. and maybe business partnerships, all sorts of interesting things, because it's a very unique experience to go through with somebody where by the end of it, you feel like you made 15, 20, 25 friends, in a really deep way, and connected with a true community. So there's just so many benefits. Check out the website again. We'll drop it in the chat again. I hope that everyone's gotten a ton of value from this here today. And if you have any questions, talk to Mike or I. I mean, we really just want to give, and even if we have a conversation and it's not for you, I think that conversation will still offer a lot of value to you, where you get some insights and perspective, and maybe it'll make sense down the road. So our sense always is, if you're meant to be there, you'll be there. If you're not, you won't, and that's cool. We just want the right folks there, and that's pretty much it. But Mike, what are your thoughts? Any closing thoughts before we head for the exit?
Yeah. The last thing is on the website, it even says, are you seeking opinion or counsel? And I think one of the benefits of having myself and you, Andrew, in the space facilitating is that we lead principle-based lives. Like we've learned what it takes, and we implement those into our lives and into our businesses and into our relationships. So it's like, so we're able to not tell you what is right. We'll just tell you what's worked for us. And then you can kind of forge your own opinion from there. So and to have that container with, us, I think is a benefit. I mean, you understand, to get Tony Robbins with 15 people, I don't want to be Tony Robbins, and some of you guys might like Tony, maybe you don't, but to get him in a room with 15 people, it's impossible. I mean, you're talking millions and millions of dollars. So for us to be able to create a space of 15 people and have some level of wisdom to be able to offer that's worked for us, and you be able to share what's worked for you, and to create that and have that in a space for such an insignificant amount of money that we're really asking for, because of the expenses that you and I are having putting on the event, I think is it's a no-brainer if the time makes sense, and if you can make it work out. So I agree. Reach out. We're excited to have this conversation with everyone. So until next time, I think we'll do a few more of these, over the next upcoming weeks as we're leading up to the event. And if you got some value, feel free to post in the comments if you're watching the recording, and hit us up. We'd love to hear from you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks, Mike.
Cool. Take care.